Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear,
business consultant.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.
Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. Our lives are filled with twists and turns and journeys down wrong paths. But often it's those wrong paths that get us to where we're supposed to be and can change the trajectory of our lives. Well, on today's episode, we're going to talk about creativity, overcoming obstacles, and facing our fears, staying open, and finding your Aardvark. Our guest is a father. He's an entrepreneur, an explorer, investor, philanthropist, author, speaker, and much more. He's sold vacuum cleaners door to door, real estate, opened a pizza franchise, and has been a waiter. He also happened to create the biggest selling board game in the world. Please welcome Rob Angel. Rob, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here on Business Minds Coffee Chat.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
Absolutely. It is an absolute pleasure. And I'm thoroughly looking forward to this conversation and where this is going to lead. So let's dive right in. I think a great starting point for us would be if you could take us back to where your journey begins. So growing up, did you grow up in a creative home environment? Share a little bit of your backstory with us, if you would.
Sure. I grew up in a neighborhood environment, right? There was a bunch of kids and we played together all the time. And every summer for days on end, we'd play kick the can and board games and we'd get together, and I was conditioned, if you will, to have this group mentality, right? This collaboration, this fun, the getting together with friends. And that's my upbringing. I mean, that was my childhood. And so as I went through life, it still carried through that way. So when I invented Pictionary, it just didn't seem that out of the ordinary to what I was doing anyway, what I was already feeling growing up. It was a great way to grow up, I got to tell you.
So what is something that you believed about yourself early on that you discovered through life wasn't true?
That wasn't true. I like that little ending there. That wasn't true. That I wasn't capable. I went through bad self-doubt and all these other things growing up because I kind of was just the goofy kid. Right? I didn't have a lot of, I won't use motivation, but I was just a goofy, fun-loving kid. And so to make that switch to entrepreneur, to make that switch to creating something special, to make that switch took a little bit of time. And it wasn't, I want to say debilitating, but it was there in the back of my mind, and it motivated me in a lot of regards. And you gotta figure out where that motivation comes from when you're getting ready to do your own business.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking more about that because that's, I think, an important topic for us to address. Before we get there, though, I'm curious, what words would you use to describe yourself?
I wouldn't use myself as entrepreneur. I would say passionate, loyal, integrity, willing to take, well, it's a long word, but willing to take chances, not a fear of the unknown, and open.
So open is a good one. And I know that that's become an acronym for you that's going to stand for something very powerful when it comes to success. And we're certainly going to unpack that also. Speak to Adventurous for a moment, if you will. So give us an example outside of the tie back to Pictionary, but give us an example of your adventurous spirit. And if you can give us an example that goes back a bit further, something that highlights that adventurism that you have within yourself?
The adventurous in me is a willingness to just put myself in odd situations. It's not life defining or sometimes death defined, but I'm always open, as we said earlier, and it's not judging these opportunities. I remember I met this guy once, and I'm at a show at a festival, and I was tired and exhausted. And it's the fourth day, and I'm sitting by myself, catching myself, collecting my breath. It was like too much, overwhelming. When I get overwhelmed, I remove myself from the situation. It's been that way my whole life in business. So I'm sitting by myself. A guy walks over to me, and he's a Hell's Angel. And taps me on the shoulder, death rings, ponytail, kind of scares the crap out of me. I'm going, he goes, get me a beer. Kind of look over my shoulder, a little scared. I go get your own effing beer. And I turn around, hope he's not going to shiv me at this point. And he walks away, and he comes back a couple of minutes later, puts a beer in front of me, goes, I like you. Next thing I know, we're best friends. And I wind up running with the bulls with this guy. I go every year to Pamplona, and I've come this close, by the way, to get my ass stepped on by a bull. Yeah, I know, right? It was one of those, what am I doing here moments, but it was so exhilarating. It was unknown. It was fearful, but I love that sort of stuff. Not an adrenaline junkie.
Okay.
I love just that my heart rate going up. But the point is that had I not been open, had I not been exploring, had I judged this guy, I would have just walked away. But instead I wound up with one of my best friends in the world, and he lives in Finland. And he's a great guy. So when you're exploring, I call exploring is just walking around with my eyes open. And as I describe it, I put my arms out, and I literally sometimes I'll put my head back, close my eyes, and I'll just start walking. And I bump into shit all the time. All the time. I get bloody and I get bruised. But for me, it just gives me life. And it makes me more creative, more energetic. I come up with better new ideas for businesses. If we're living in our bubble, and to go off on a bit of a tangent, a lot of it is ego, right? When we think we're the smartest guy in the room, when we think we know all the stuff, when we think that, I'm cooler than everybody else, well, then you're not open to these experiences. You're not open to growing. You're not opening to being more successful, right? So collaborate. That was a long way to go for that, but it really is who I am. And no matter what we say, no matter what I tell you, these are things I've lived, and it's made me very, very successful. Yeah, I made a lot of money, but it's made me successful in life. It's made me successful in different businesses. So it's an exciting world out there. You never know where inspiration is coming from.
So true. And I love that story about meeting that Hell's Angels member and you taking a risk and becoming best friends and traveling together and going through different experiences together. And I'd love to
turn around, by the way, right? You meet somebody or do something. You don't have to make it your life's work. You can stop, turn around. It's not working. Go the other direction, but you got to try.
Yeah. And I think that ties back, Rob, to the different paths that we go on, right? And going down sometimes those wrong paths, that when you're able to look at things with greater perspective, you realize that the learnings and the opportunity that came out of going down that path it's incredible. And I wouldn't have had that experience otherwise. I wouldn't have accomplished what I accomplished, or whatever that happens to look like for you. It takes going down the path, right? Putting one foot in front of the other first before you can experience anything in life. And you gave a great example. Yeah, I want to touch on something that you brought up. And you mentioned creativity, and when you're in that state of mind, or perhaps some would call it a flow state, where you're experiencing that the heart rate is increasing and you're experiencing something that you haven't felt before. There's an adventurous tone to it. Yeah. What does creativity, if you were able to describe it and put words to it, what does that experience deliver for you that allows you to become more creative?
Oh man. So creativity, I apologize. Somebody else said it, and maybe Steve Jobs said that basically creativity is taking two things that didn't belong together or weren't together before, and you make them something new. So Pictionary was drawing, and I put it into a game, right? Two separate things, but it became fantastic. And that's the more experiences you have, the more bits and pieces you're going to have to experiment with and put together. And it doesn't mean that you can't do something that somebody else has already done. That's more innovation, right? I didn't invent board games. I just innovated a different kind of board game. So yeah, creativity, man, you've just got to be open to more input, more data, more people, more experiences. And it just makes your life richer. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's what it's about. But the richer your life is, the more experiences you have, the more creative you be in your business, in your marketing, in your life, in your relationships. They're all combined, by the way. They're all combined.
Yeah, love that. What are some other ways that you, or maybe some tools that you would use to explore and push the boundaries of creativity in your world?
Well, like I said, I will I'll sometimes go on YouTube. I know this is kind of an odd one. I'll go on YouTube and they've got that one part where it said random. And I'll just pull up something random. And it's like, oh, I'm going to learn about giant seashells in the bottom of Lake Erie. I don't know anything about those. Who cares? But now I know about that. And who knows where that's going to come in somewhere else. Jeff Hoffman, the guy who started Priceline. He does that. He's really successful, but that's what he does for his creativity as well. He spends 10 minutes a day, every day, scrubbing something like that, just to increase and waiting for that synchronicity and that moment, that aha moment, when it's going to come together. And that's connecting the dots. And that's when the magic happens.
That's powerful. Is this a daily practice for you, where you try to, or open yourself up to more creative opportunities and doing things like YouTube searching or whatever other mechanisms you may employ? Is that something you do religiously?
Yeah, it's an active pursuit, but it's also very much a mindset. So when I'm walking down the street, or I'm watching a movie, or I'm just hanging out with my girlfriend, it doesn't matter. I'm always just kind of absorbing. See, I'm looking, as we're having the conversation, I'm looking around the room to see what I can absorb. And not everything sticks. That wouldn't be fun anyway. But it's really about energy. Where do I want to put that energy? And if I'm watching something, I'm doing something, and the energy within me, and you can feel it in your heart, right? You get, as you said earlier, when your heart rate goes up and you get a little sweat and you're going, oh my gosh, this is somewhere I want to put my energy, right? That's when you go to the next step. That's when you go, okay, maybe this video is better than I thought. Maybe this experiment or this thing that I'm doing. So when you have that flow of energy, when you have that intuition that says, yeah, there's something here, make a note of it. Okay, we're looking for a practical thing. I have on my phone my voice notes recorder. I don't remember half the crap I come up with. My brain's always going. So I record it, quick note, nothing big, and that way I can go back to it. And great ideas come from that little tip.
Yeah, that's a powerful tip right there. There have been so many times when just something, a random thought, somebody that I was thinking about, something that I knew I wanted to do. And whether I'm in the shower, whether I'm still in bed, whatever it happens to be, I'm thinking to myself, well, you know what? I'll get to that when I wake up, or I'll get to that when I get out of the shower. And almost 100% of the time, I forget what it was. So
that's one of the ways I describe it is, how many times have you been in the shower, you're washing your hair, and as the soap's starting to lather, you're going, I just saved the world. I just invented the best product ever in the world. And by the time you're drying your hair, damn, it's gone. What do I do? What was it? And you forget. So write things down, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on that. Have you, let me back up for a moment. There's been some excellent work done on flow states and enhanced levels of creativity. There's a book called Stealing Fire, which is an excellent book, and it goes into various levels of flow states. A lot of it's tied to athletes or extreme athletes experiencing those flow states, but there's also sections on plant medicine and using different outside influences, if you will, to help establish or open yourself up to more creativity. Has that been something that you have used yourself to try to become more creative, or at least open your mind? Any type of plant medicine or meditation, anything along those lines?
Yeah. Well, that's that explorer part, that experimenter part.
Okay.
I do everything. I take that back. I don't do everything, but I do a lot of different things. And to me, no one thing is going to have the ultimate goal. Oh my God, I get it. I'm enlightened. But all these things that I do, yes, I do plant medicine, and I do meditation, and I go on walks, and I breathe, and I do breath work. I do all these different things, and they all just keep adding up to a better me, a more creative me. So it's not just the creative process at the end. It's those other things. And yeah, I've done plant medicine. Very powerful. It's not for everybody. I'm not an advocate. I don't, I just show up. But it and any other thing that you can do to open your mind, I'm all for it. Right? We get in our little boxes all the time. I'm just a waiter was one of my boxes. I'm just a marketing person. We box ourselves in, and all these different things that I try, and coaching, I've been to coaches as well, but they just kind of get me and keep me out of the box. Because when I put myself in the box, any box, that's when I get stressed. That's when my anxiety happens. That's when a form of my depression happens, because I'm not being authentic. I bought into somebody else's dream, as Steve Jobs says. I buy into what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've done my whole life trying desperately not to do that. And you still have to conform sometimes, and you have to play the game, of course. However, man, don't put yourself in a box. Don't, as they say, limiting beliefs. Don't tell yourself you can't, because you can. You always can. And just live. Don't think outside the box. Live outside the box. So you don't have to go in and out. Do your best to stay out of there. And there's going to be a bunch of them over time. Wow. It's going to change, right? With your life. It's not going to be just one box. So stay on the edges. Look from the outside looking in, not the inside looking out. Your life will be different.
I love that. Another powerful point. And there's something I want to make sure that we touch on that you reminded me of as you were going through your explanation here. But before we do, I want to remind our listeners and those that are watching that please make sure that you are taking good notes, because there's so much value that not only has been shared already by Rob, that as we get further into this conversation, I want to make sure that you're not missing anything here, because we can apply so many things that Rob has experienced in his life and how he's been able to accomplish what he has. When we talk about mindset, we talk about overcoming limiting beliefs, we talk about looking for opportunities, right? Creating experiences that lead to greater creativity. All of these things are incredibly important for all of us. So please take notes. So Rob, what I was thinking about is, what in your experience, what tends to hold people back, and maybe even have held you back from being able to experience more out of life, whether it's fear? You already mentioned about the limiting beliefs, but what do you see as the primary things that hold people back, and how can they overcome those?
I think it's a couple things. One is procrastination. Now, normally that's just, well, I'll get to it and I'll get to when I get to it. I've got something other to do. No, it's really not wanting to be uncomfortable, right? You're putting off being uncomfortable, starting a new business, starting a new relationship, trying a new wine. It doesn't matter. So by procrastinating, I don't think it's really fear of failure. I don't think it's inner monologue saying, ooh, well, I can't do it because I'm this person and this person. I think it's one, you're just comfortable where you are. And this whole procrastination is you're going to have to give up being comfortable, even if you're uncomfortable, by the way. And the bigger part is, I think for more people, it's not fear of failure. It's a mystery. When I started Pictionary, right, things were a mystery. I had this great idea for a game. I thought, oh my gosh, I got to share this with the world. Pictionary is going to be amazing. And then my head started saying, oh, wait a minute. I've got to do business plans, marketing plans. I've got to find partners. I've got to find capital. But guess what? Really, when you get into it, those aren't that hard. They're not that hard. But before, when I was sitting there at 22 years old, I'm going, oh, it's a mystery. I don't know how to do that. I'm not going to do it. That's what frightened me. So it's like spiritual journey that I'm on. When I got started, all these people were smarter than me. All these gurus were smarter than me. I'll never get there. I don't know how they got there. I'm not going to do it. When I started my business, all these other people are smarter than me. They figured it out. So it's not a mystery. And so I went through this great idea and this wonderful idea for this game. And I put myself in a box. I'm a waiter. So I didn't do anything with Pictionary for 3 years. I just talked myself out of it, procrastinated. But this feeling, right? This energy, this emotion of sharing this fun game that I was playing with my roommates, with the world, finally overrode anything. And what I was trying to accomplish was physically, how do I make this happen? There's still a physical practicality to your idea. And for me, it was putting words into the game because I knew words, what people would buy. I was creating a convenience. We used a dictionary with my roommate sketching words, but people aren't going to do that. So one day, 24 years old by now, 25, and I see Trivial Pursuit. And I look at the card and I see the question and I turn it over and I see the answer. And by the time I turn the card back over, I go, holy shit, this was my aha moment. This was the moment I knew how to make Pictionary, right? I could put the words on cards. It was like, okay, how hard can that be? So everything was in front of me. A pad of paper, a dictionary, and a pen. I went in the backyard and I opened it up and I go, fuck it, I'm going to do this. Again, it's not that hard, right? This whole mystery thing. Remember, I'm still thinking of business plans. And I looked down and the first word that I see that made sense to put down was Aardvark. I write the word Aardvark, 9 letters, 3 years. It took me to get over my dementia, to get over my procrastination, to get over all this crap, this box I'd put myself in, wrote it down. And it's like, that wasn't very hard. Like, my hand didn't explode. My brain didn't explode. The world didn't come to an end. I just wrote one freaking word. And then I wrote a second word. Took 30 seconds. All of a sudden, the mystery is now going away. The energy in me is starting to build, right? Now it's going, okay, no, wait a minute. I can do this again. Wait a minute. Now I'm telling myself, I'm not a waiter. I'm a freaking game inventor. So I wrote another word and another word. And that was it. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a marketing plan. All these things that scared me, that prevented me from following through on this freaking massive idea that I thought I had. All it took was writing down that one simple word. And my energy went into that word list. And that's what got started. And by 3 months of every day telling myself I was a game inventor, every day writing down words. I was a freaking game inventor. So you got to do the work. You got to tell yourself every day. You got to stay outside of that box every day. And eventually you just are. And by the time I was done, I was a game inventor. No more waiter in my head.
Man, that is such a fantastic lesson there. And it's amazing because you became the game inventor before the world recognized you as the game inventor,
Yeah.
right? You had to reframe the story of who you are as opposed to looking at 3 years of not doing that thing. You completely shifted the mindset and the way that you saw yourself, took the right actions, and the rest of the world caught up with the way that you were already seeing yourself. It's amazing.
Right.
It's amazing.
You have to give yourself permission to not beat yourself up for what you're not doing. Now, this is a learned thing, I'm telling you right now. This is not Rob Angel at 26 years old, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. This is what I know now, but I was living it, right? I didn't beat myself up. Exactly as you say, I didn't say, oh, well, I wasted 3 years. No, I didn't. I was doing it then. I just was in the moment, in the present, in the flow. And give yourself permission to not beat yourself up over what you're not accomplishing. Because I'm sure in all our lives right now, whether it's your business, your personal life, mine included, there's things I should be doing. I sit around and go, fuck, what am I not doing? Don't do that. And it's a learned thing. But when you can do that, it's always looking forward. It's always being positive. It's always creating. That's the lesson. Give yourself permission because nobody else can, just you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So walk us through the business aspect now of building the relationships and connecting with vendors or whoever you needed to take this incredible idea that you were already working and take it to a larger point and be able to scale that and then get in front of Mattel, who ultimately purchased it.
Okay. That's a 17-year journey.
17 years.
17 years. Yeah. Overnight success. I call Pictionary my 17-year startup. I mean, we acted as entrepreneurs from the minute my partners and I started working on it, 1984, till the time we sold it 2001. I mean, it was a job. I mean, there's no shortcuts. There's no easy way. We worked it. The entrepreneurs who sell their business and then start another and another and another, God love them. God love them. But for me, I was making too much money, having too much fun, and saw too much opportunity in what I was doing with Pictionary. So I stayed with it rather than cash out. So the nuts and bolts of the business side was I had this idea. I had two partners, smarter than me. The old cliche is so true. Surround yourself with better people than yourself. And that was why Pictionary worked. I took my ego out of it and I said, I'm not a very good businessman. People look at me and they go, Rob, that's the box they try to put me in. Rob, you're such a genius. No, if I was, the business would have failed, right? A friend of mine works for Microsoft, entrepreneurs, and I said, what's the biggest reason entrepreneurs fail? Without hesitation, she said, 87% of businesses fail for entrepreneurs because they think they can do it all. They think they can do it all. That was without hesitation, not lack of capital, not lack of a great idea, but we can't do it all. So I had partners smarter than me, and we all bought into the mission. That's one of the other things. We all bought into the mission of bringing Pictionary to the world. So when those situations happened, and there were plenty, we didn't fight with each other over what decision to make. It was so liberating to be working with people that shared the vision and had integrity, which was very important to me. It's like Patagonia. Whenever there's a disaster anywhere in the world, they're always the first ones to make an announcement. Why? Because they know their mission. And when something happens, an ecological disaster happens, they know exactly how to respond. They don't sit with their marketing team. How do we spin this? No, they know exactly who they are. They know their mission. They know their values. They know what they stand for. That's powerful. And it's liberating. So when you find those people and those companies that you want to work with, and this story, or this philosophy I just said, changed my life a couple of years later, but I'll tell you that story about licensing. And it was, I practice what I preach here, folks. It's not theory, and it's learned, but it's not theory. So let's see. We produced the first 1,000 games physically by hand in my apartment. This is 1985. I'm 22 years old, 24 years old by now, living in a shitty little apartment, 925 square feet, driving a 10-year-old car, having a ball, man. Those early years, kind of ramble a little bit, but I got to tell you, those early years when we'd wake up, not having a clue what we were doing, knowing the world wasn't coming to an end, whatever decision we made, we were just prairie dogs, heads up going, what do you want to do today? Oh, let's go that direction, sell some games. What are you doing? I don't know. I'll go try to market over there. I mean, every day was a disaster and yet exhilarating. And one of the lessons I learned in this is the biggest manufacturing problem we had, the existential threat to our existence, is we needed to sort 500,000 game cards for the first 1,000 games. And each game had 500 cards, and the printer was supposed to send them sorted per game. Okay. Calls me, and he said, can't do it in the time you need them done. I got to tell you, and I say this jokingly, not jokingly, it's the only tantrum I ever threw. I mean, I was pissed. All this mumbo jumbo of go with the flow and feeling. No, I was fucking pissed. And I threw the phone and I go, we can't get it done. And we're sunk. Life, it was terrible. I was terrible. And what I'd done, I realized it now, is the Stoic philosophy is the facts don't change, only your reactions to them. Well, I was reacting very badly, very, very badly. And my brain was saying, I'll bet you the printer, he's sitting in his office. How can I screw with Rob today? How can I make his life terrible? That's what I figured. This guy's feet in his desk, and he's going, he's out to get me. Clearly, he was not out to get me. So it took me, like I said, 30 days of practicing, that I realized, no, the facts are, I've got to get these cards sorted. So my partners and I, again, because we had the same mission, moved all the furniture out of my tiny little bedroom, set up 8-foot tables, went to Nordstrom, got shoe boxes, 170, and hand sorted those 500,000 game cards. It would be like, yeah, right? It'd be like your stupid, cousin or brother or whatever, taking 9,850 decks of playing cards, putting them in the middle of the room, mixing them up, laughing and running out, say good luck. Our job in 6 days was to put those cards back in the boxes, sorted. Now, the old term they don't use anymore, it's because, it's all with intention, is silver lining. So while this was a terrible experience, it turned into the best experience. Those moments where you know what you're made of. This was that moment. You know who your partners are. Because when things are going well, you don't know until you're tested. We were freaking tested to the max. And so by the end of this whoring experience, our partnership was stronger because we spent 6 days talking to each other. We got to know each other personal level. We knew that we could overcome any challenge. If we could do this, we could do anything. And we bonded like never before. So this terrible moment, terrible idea turned into the best thing that can happen. And it solidified our relationship, our partnership moving forward and made us stronger. And so when you're in those moments over and over, because shit happens, just does. They're not out to get you. It's just the facts. Don't knee-jerk reaction. Just take a second to figure it out. And then just know it happened for a reason. And the synchronicity of that moment is going to get you farther ahead. So don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as a positive. How can I make this better? And how can I use it? And I'll tell you, I've used that my whole life. And it works. Keeps you out of the hole. Keeps you out of that mental and spiritual hole. So
incredible. What a fantastic story about adapting and just continuing to move forward in the face of adversity and facing the unknown, but just accepting the challenge. And I think to your point, just to amplify the fact that it catalyzed the relationship with your partners. I mean, talk about an opportunity there that just sets you on a very solid course for not only a strong relationship, but success under any circumstances. That's a great story.
Yeah, Jay, I think I may swipe that line from you. Look at things and problems as opportunities, not problems, because they are. It's that simple. So I'm gonna verbalize that. It's an opportunity to show who you are. It's an opportunity to be better. It's an opportunity to keep your business moving forward.
Yeah, amazing. So let's fast forward a bit to Mattel. Share with us how that came to pass and how you, your partners, and Mattel came together.
We got 2 seconds. Let me back up real fast.
Please.
To the biggest decision we ever had to make. And selling Pictionary to Mattel in 2001 was hard, but it had run its course, to be honest, right? I was ready to move on. It'd been 17 years. I had a family, and it was time for me to move on. But with a big game company, there was a much bigger decision that we had to make when I was 27 years old. And we were very successful in Seattle. We were marketing, promoting, making a lot of noise in Seattle. So all the game companies wanted to come license the game from us. We couldn't scale. We couldn't manufacture enough. And so Milton Bradley comes to us with an offer. So what they're going to do, they're going to take the game nationwide for us. They're going to manufacture, distribute, sell, and market at their expense. They're going to do that for us and pay us a royalty. Sounds lovely, right? We learned it's not what you make, it's what you keep. So by licensing, we didn't have to have employees. We didn't have to have offices. We didn't have to be captains of industry, right? We got to keep all our money. We're the biggest selling game in the world with 2 employees. That's a whole different story, right? So we made a lot and we kept a lot. Keep that, remember that lesson as well. What's your goal? If it's money, fine. It's not to have a big gross. It's what you keep. Remember that. Milton Bradley comes to us with a deal. Now we'd verbally talked to them and they'd agreed to not changing the packaging because we knew it was best for Pictionary. We'd been living it every day. Advertising spend, marketing spend, all these different components that were great. And so they're the biggest game company in the world. And the contract comes, 26 years old. I'm making $500 a month, still driving that 10-year-old car, crappy apartment. And I look at the contract. The first thing in there is the royalty rate. It's the biggest royalty rate they'd ever given an independent game company. And I'm like, guys, look at this. I'm like buying cars. I'm not even a car guy. It's like going to Costco, right? You go and you buy a bunch of shit. You don't even know what you want. This was me. I was going to the Bahamas. I was buying a second home. I mean, I've got the keys in my pocket. I'm feeling good about this. And then all the guarantees. And I'm going, okay, there's a third home in the Bahamas. And by the time it was done, there was no guarantee they wouldn't touch the packaging or the rules or the graphics without our written approval. Now, on the surface, that doesn't seem like a big deal. The gameplay is still fun. But what it really was they promised us something and they didn't deliver. One of the things I said earlier that was integral for me is to deal with companies and people that have integrity. You're a man of your word. That's all. And if it's a crappy word, that's okay, but do it. So we called them and we said, hey, great contract, but we can't do this. We need that in the contract. They said, we can't do it. Really? I'm already spending the stuff. My lawyer's going, sign the freaking deal. And so my partners and I were aligned. The shared mission. We said, no, we can't do it. We had no plan B. There was no other game company in the wings. This wasn't like, we were ready to have this other deal come through. And it was like Brad Pitt, throw him into this. His production company is called Plan B. He's winning Oscars. He's winning all these awards. My plan B was I was going to go back to waiting tables and selling sloppy joes at the diner.
Wow.
I was willing to do that rather than sign this contract. If we couldn't trust them, we wouldn't sign the contract. I mean, think about it. Here I am. I'm willing to live up to my standards, what I feel is right, and willing to sacrifice everything. Simon Sinek calls it your just cause. And so next day, here I am coddling this baby, this package. They didn't sign the deal. Pictionary, oh, it's so beautiful. Next day, 7 a.m., I'm back in the freaking warehouse, shipping out the game. Now it's like, you son of a bitch. So it was a couple of days of like, what have we done? But ultimately, 2 months later, the industry heard that we were in play, and a group of men who were entrepreneurs who sold all the Trivial Pursuits game, manufactured and distributed all Trivial Pursuit, formed a joint venture, gave us everything we wanted, bigger royalty rate, and only North America. So we still got to sell the rest of the world. Part of the story is stick to what you hold firm and dear. It works out. Because if we hadn't, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. It wouldn't have worked out with Hasbro. So stay true, stay firm.
That is incredible. You know, as you were telling the story, and when you decided, you knew you and your partners were going to stick to your ethics and your morals and what you collectively agreed upon. And I can imagine the audience listening to this story and saying, "Come on, are you kidding me?
Right, move on to the next deal."
Right.
Yeah,
I tell you, it's an incredible story about stick-to-itness, right? And deciding who you want to be, what kind of person you want to show up as, and not allowing outside influences or that shiny new object to sway or change who you are at your core and what's most important to you.
You know,
live your ethics.
Live your ethics. It's true. Your gut knows. Your instincts know. I mean, we're sitting there ready to sign this deal, and it just didn't feel right. Now, why would I want to go into a deal with somebody that has my life in their hands? I'm not smart enough to have a second game at this point. I don't have another idea for business. This is my life. So why would I go into business when it just didn't feel right? This intuition that we have, it's getting more and more common to talk about it, to acknowledge it. So the facts are what the facts are. but how you feel is very important. Bruce Lipton talks about it all the time. It's when it comes down to it, it really is instinct. It really is your gut that should decide what you want to do. And I don't have, people say, I don't have intuition. Yes, you do. You're just not listening to it. We all do. It's that little gut, that feeling that basically overrides your brain. That's when this heart brain thing, when I start listening to both of them at the same time, I'm in trouble. That's when I get confused. So I listen to my heart more times than not. And it,
and it works out.
Beautiful. Even if it doesn't, at least I know it was the right decision. I can intellectualize my heart-centered decision, even if it's wrong. There's been more than a few, like not everything ends in happiness. That's okay. Part of the journey.
Absolutely. So speak to us about the acronym OPEN.
I'm going to be honest with you, Jay. I had an acronym for OPEN, and I've changed it recently. Yeah, I know you're going, what? Because open as a theory, as a process, I've talked about, I live my life open. I don't judge things. I let things in. And if it works, great. And if somebody resonates, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But no buts. And that's how I live my life. That's the overarching Rob Angel, Mr. Pictionary philosophy.
Okay.
But the O does now stand for, open sound for opportunity. Life is filled with opportunities. I just said that. They're not all Shark Tank moments. They could be trying a new wine, opening a new book, walking across the street. Don't judge the opportunities. Then the P in open, OPEN, now P is permission to be authentic. You be who you are. I mean, I've talked a lot about that today. And give yourself permission to live outside the box. Give yourself permission to deal with your heart and lead with your heart, and you'll do it. And the E is for energy. Everything is about energy. When you start a project, if it feels good and it feels right and you're thinking the right path, that's when the energy just takes you and flows you in that direction. But if it doesn't, that's okay. You still got plenty of energy, just direct it somewhere else. So your energy, where you choose to spend your energy, is important. And a quick aside, people say follow your passion, right? That's bullshit. Who knows what your passion is? You got to try a bunch of stuff to find out what it is. I have a passion for stacking BBs underwater, as my dad used to say. Now, can I make a business of that? Can I make a job out of it? No. But when I flow of energy, when I tried Pictionary, I was really passionate. That was just the accelerator. I'm going to try it. But as my energy flowed into Pictionary, that's when I fell in love with Pictionary. So it's not enough just to be passionate. You've got to love your product. You love your idea, not the idea of it, not the fact that you're going to make a bunch of money or you're going to do this, but this moment, this thing in front of you. That's what you need to be in love with. Then you've got something. Then you found your passion. Then you keep going. And then the N for now, was now, is never lost. There's no one way to get anywhere, either microcosms of your business or your life. I met this gal from lunch, a friend of mine. She's 20 minutes late. She's all upset. Rob, I'm sorry I'm late. She goes, I was so lost. I'm sorry. I go, you weren't lost. You're here right now, aren't you? Well, yeah. Wasn't that the intention of this lunch? Yes. Then you weren't lost. You just took a different way to get here. Took a little longer than you anticipated. That's it. Relax, chill out. There's no one way. When you get there, you'll know it and you'll get there.
Wow. What just a beautiful way of articulating those messages and sharing it the way that you did. Thank you for that. And I like the change that you made to the acronym, because I knew it now was before.
I won't lie to you, Jay. It's a new change, and that's the first time I've done it on camera or on a podcast. So I was kind of seeing how it resonated with me as well, because I say it at home and I practiced it. And I was like, well, is anybody going to give a shit, or is it going to be that different? But I really 100% believe in the message. So thank you. I think I could probably switch it up now and keep going with it.
Yeah, definitely do that, because it's a meaningful message and it's a meaningful acronym. And it's one that
Jay, how's this? I was open to changing what the acronym meant, because it was more powerful, rather than having the ego of saying, my last open was the way it's going to be. So anyway, it's a little personal lesson too, as well.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. So I want to mention your book that you wrote, and you launched this book during the pandemic. That book, Game Changer.
I'm getting better at self-promotion. I'm not very good at it.
It's fantastic. So briefly, because we're going to have to set up round 2 of this conversation, because there's some other areas that I would love to unpack and pull on some additional threads with you that I believe would be very meaningful for our audience. So we'll talk about that. But so share with us the genesis of the book itself, and why did you write it, and what was the experience like creating that book?
We were having such a good time. The original intention for the book was to show my kids what their dad did. They're 27 and 25 now. So when they were born, they saw the aftermath. They saw the stuff, and they saw Daddy as Mr. Pictionary. And so it was like, I wrote the book so they know what I did. And then it morphed into, well, there's a lot of lessons here. It's not just my story. And so it took about 3+ years for me to get the right tone, message. I fired like 4 writers. And as they say, if you fire 4 writers over the same reason, it's you, not them. Ooh. So I blame myself. They were great writers. And so finally I had a friend and we put it into a form that I like. And it basically just tells the journey, the Pictionary story, the journey of the obstacles we overcame, the journey of the synchronicity of the so many things happening, and looking back, realizing now how many things had to happen for Pictionary to be a success. And it's the culmination of 35 years, and I'm proud of it. Get it on Amazon, wherever where books are sold. And I'm now can put that chapter to bed, if you will. And so I'm writing my next book, my next chapter about now I'm in the spiritual journey, just a journey nonetheless. And I've been on this 6-7 years, and that's where the ayahuasca. But I learned a lot about myself looking back from Pictionary. I was present in those moments, all these buzzwords. I was present in those moments to make Pictionary happen. I surrendered to the universe when the deal with Milton Bradley didn't go through. Right? I was aligned with my partners. And that's why that second deal came through. And all these things had been building in me are just been who I've been. And now just this spiritual journey, which, by the way, I hate the term spiritual journey. I hate the term. It's like, what are you looking for? You're out there looking for spirit. No, for me, a spiritual journey is just a journey to self. A journey to my heart, a journey to who I am, to getting back to being authentic, just to find out what makes me tick, not from the outside sources. So it's been that'll be a second book. It is incredible. And the one thing I learned from it early on, and this goes for business too, 100%. I started this journey and I met all these people that were really smart, right? You can say I met all these business people with business, really smarter than me, all this mystery stuff. Mm-hmm. And went and saw this woman. And after half an hour, we're just having a conversation about life. And after 3 minutes, half an hour, she says, "That's the third time you've asked me that." I went, "What's that?" She goes, "You said, what's the answer?" I honestly was going, there's so many smart people in these spirit worlds that they know the answer. They're just not sharing. Just give me the answer. Or in business, just give me the answer. I don't want to do the work. There's got to be a method, a madness, and just give me the couple of words and I'll be done. No, didn't work that way. Never works that way. And so I have been doing the work. I did the work for Pictionary for 17 years, 20 if you include the inception. So there's no shortcut to doing the work. And it's been gratifying. It's been satisfying. I've been learning, growing, being open, meeting all these new people. And I don't want this to come across as woohoo and I can't do it. But the whole thing is back to the beginning. It was a mystery. I never started this journey because I thought they all knew the answer and it just scared the crap out of me. So take a couple of steps. Find your aardvark, take a couple of steps in some direction. If it doesn't work, it's okay. Buddha says it's okay to walk the wrong path. Just turn around if it's not working. So I don't know, I'm a little bit on my soapbox there, but I tell you, I mean, I love sharing this because it's hard fought. Not every day is easy. Not every day is easy. There's dark days and there's good days. But every day gets a little better, easier.
And I love hearing it. I know our audience is going to love hearing it as well. And as I had mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, you're such an inspiration, learning more about you, discovering your story. And your story obviously has many chapters to go, but those that have already been written, outstanding. I mean, great lessons, and I appreciate that. So before I ask my final question to you, at least for this interview, where can we go to connect, to purchase your book and consume your content?
Amazon. You have to push it Game Changer Pictionary because there's like 47 books called Game Changer. So you find that there, and all the social media at the Rob Angel, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I've got to start posting more on LinkedIn. I don't really personal issue, so I got to start. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
Perfect.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to link to all of those in the show notes. So here is my final question to you. What are you either removing or adding to your life right now to live a more fulfilled and meaningful life?
That is such a poignant question and topical. I have this very bad habit, trigger, of pushing things to make things happen. Right? This is me personally. When I push to make the book happen, instead of letting it happen, when I push to make book sales, when I push to do a second game, when I push rather than being drawn to, Michael Beckworth calls it, instead of pushing, you let the energy flow towards it. And whenever I push, I get a little tense talking about it. I go into a tailspin. I get negative, my triggers start, and they're not positive. And fortunately, over years of looking at this, I'm aware of them. My kids call that a dead answer. I'll just give you the long version. The short answer is I have shut down a lot of things to let the universe tell me what to do next. And I know it sounds woohoo, but I've got these ideas, but every time I push for them to happen, it starts giving me anxiousness. That is not to say when I find the projects like the book, like wanting to turn the book into a docuseries. So it's not to say I'm not pushing to get certain things done, but to push for a lot of different things that don't resonate, that's what I'm eliminating. That's what I'm getting rid of. And it just opens me up. My brain opens up, my creativity opens up. I have more time for creation. And so I guess one little bit of advice I was asked yesterday or a couple of days ago, what advice would you give your younger self? And for me, without question, I would say no more often. Because I said yes to so many things, whether it was going to a party, whether it was a business, whether it was staying up late, I don't know, whatever. I said yes way too many times. So I would say no and only say yes, for the most part, to those things that served me, to those things that felt right. Instead of saying yes, I would say no. And it just opens you up for more creativity. It opens me up for more expansiveness to meet new people, to meet this Finnish guy. So say no more often. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. This whole FOMO thing that I lived for years, there'll be more parties. There'll be more business. There'll be more everything. So say no more often to those things that don't serve you and say yes to those things that feel right.
Beautifully said. And on that note, thank you so very much for spending some time with us today and sharing of your story, your knowledge, your authenticity, your experiences. And I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to pontificate and just start talking, man. This has been good. This was really enjoyable. Thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely. And for all of you, thank you so very much for watching and listening. And please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. We would love to hear one or two key takeaways from this conversation with Rob. I know there's going to be more than that, but go ahead and leave a comment and let us know what one or two really resonated with you. And to enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help your business see better results, all you need to do is visit jayshearbusinessconsulting.com. And until next time, keep learning and growing. Pick up a copy of Game Changer, and we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Business Consultant.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.